A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed honored and privileged to have a special series for the Global Careers Month. What is the Global Careers Month? The Interagency Career Guidance Working Group, IAG CGWG, composed by Cedefop, the European Commission, ETF, ILO, OECD, UNESCO, World Bank will organize a Global Careers Month from 8th November till the 12th of December. During this period, the international agencies will promote a series of global and regional level events in partnership with national and regional associations operating in the area of career development as it relates to young people and adults. So, this afternoon, we are very privileged and honored to have a real global careers advocate, Dr. Anthony Mann, who is a senior policy analyst at the OECD. I would like to welcome Dr. Mann to the show.
Hello, good afternoon, Raza. I'm very happy to be here. Big fan of your videos.
Thank you. So I would like to start off with a very inspiring quote that Dr. Mann shared during the pandemic. And what was that quote? This quote should be in every careers office. Never before in human history has career guidance been more important. Can you elaborate the significance of this quote and what brought you to this thinking and this significance, especially your interest in career readiness?
Oh, thanks very much, Raza. Well, I mean, I've been working in this field for 10 to 15 years now, but when I first started in working life, I was an historian. And I kind of studied and I taught and I lectured in history. And so I'm very much aware about and think about, what are the big trends? What's really happening? What's really different between now and 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, or 200 years ago? And there's really important trends which we're seeing, which makes career guidance more important now than it ever has been. And if we look at some of those trends, I mean, I particularly look at young people. That's my focus of my work. But young people everywhere in the world are staying in education longer than ever. They're completing primary, lower secondary, upper secondary education. They're going through tertiary education, university level education. And as they stay in education longer, they're presented with more choices. And, governments assume that they're going to make good choices, which are right for them, where they're investing in their accumulation of human capital, which somebody's going to, pay them for, give them money for in exchange once they get into the labour market. Well, they've got more decisions to make than ever before. So that's the first really important trend. More and more young people, more decisions to make, big numbers. It's a big trend over the last 20 years. But the second thing is we see the labour market itself, the world of work, becoming more and more dynamic, unpredictable. It's changing very rapidly. It's changing because of automation. And we're going to know that automation has a particular effect on the jobs which young people do, entry-level jobs, the first jobs they do, much more likely to be automated. We know as well that increasingly jobs are precarious. We have poor quality work. We have what were once good jobs are now much less stable than they were before. We also know that in this we're taping this during the COP28 program, climate change. That has implications for skills and for jobs. There's some big trends which are happening in terms of the labour market. And so, people are staying in education longer. The labour market has changed very rapidly, and adults are going to have to look to change jobs within it, which makes it much more important for adults as well. But also, we know that career guidance, it works. And this is something we're probably going to talk about over the next half hour or so, is that the work that we and others done, when you look at the best quality evidence which you have, the best quality data, you can find very strong evidence that career guidance can routinely, commonly be relied upon to make a difference to young people. But, and here's the but, we know from the international data that we collect at OECD is that too few young people around the world are getting access to the quantity and quality of career guidance which they need.
Very true. I think access is very important, especially in the pandemic that we saw that, if we can create creative ways for access, digital is one way of access, but a majority of the population, they don't have digital access. I think the more our services are available to the vulnerable communities, the better it is to increase our impact. You talked about career readiness, and the OECD has done a lot of work on career readiness. How do you see this work impacting youth around the world? Especially their parents. Can you share best career readiness practices that OECD has worked on in the research for the readers?
Well, what we're able to do over the last 2 years, it's the first time anybody's done this, we really wanted to know what works in career guidance, and is it working? And think about something about career guidance. If you think we're thinking about a position of youth here, they have interventions, they have programs at maybe age 10 to 15, 15 to 18, and these things happen to them. But how can we tell if they really make a difference later on? What we're looking for is an impact when they're actually in work. Are they finding a better job than we'd expect? Are they more likely to be in a job than unemployed? Are they happier in work? And it's quite hard actually to measure that unless you use longitudinal data. And longitudinal data sets don't exist in every country in the world by any means. And when they do, they don't often ask the right questions for us. But we did a survey around the world and we found 10 countries where we had access to these longitudinal data sets. They follow children from their adolescence through to adulthood. And many of them ask questions about their participation in career guidance activities or related areas about how they experience work, whether they're thinking about work, what they're thinking. And what we're able to do is looking across these different surveys and looking at the existing literature as well, this new analysis, the existing analysis, we're able to identify and confirm 11 predictors of better employment outcomes linked to the way that young people, typically age 15, think about their futures in work, how they explore their potential futures in work, what experience they have of their potential futures in work. And in this, and some of it, we kind of added to what was known already. So part-time working is understood very much as a teenager to relate to better outcomes later on. But we're able to find a lot of new data related to career development activities that people do in schools. And one of the interesting things was that, this participation in the career exploration and first-hand experiences of workplace really influences the thinking. And what we see is that, we know that young people now, because we have the data for this, are very ambitious, probably more ambitious than any generation in history, but they don't have access to the information and experience which they need, which is going to allow them to visualize and plan and enable progression towards futures which are well aligned with their interests and their personalities and the opportunities which are available to them. So we have substantial new data. It's all available on the OECD website, the career readiness kind of pages. But I think for parents, we're saying that this is new information which is available, which wasn't available before, which means we've got a much stronger idea about what the characteristics are of good quality career guidance. And we can be more confident that when young people have this, that it's going to be a good investment for them. It's going to help them transition towards a better place in the labour market, earning more, less likely to be out of work, happier with the work that they're doing.
Wonderful. I would strongly recommend the viewers that are listening to this interview to actually go and visit the OECD website and actually review this wonderful research that has been done by the OECD in 11 countries. In your opinion, which are the best grades to integrate career readiness in school curriculum? So when should it start, ideally?
Well, nearly all our data relates to 15-year-olds. And that's a little bit of an accident. It tends to be kind of the last year of lower secondary or maybe the first year of upper secondary. And so we've got very strong evidence around 15. 15 is a key point. And think about the sorts of activities they might be doing. They might be going to job fairs. They might be going on workplace visits. They might be doing job shadowing. They might be volunteering in the community. So 15 we kind of have some strong evidence for, but because the evidence shows us that the thinking dimension is so important, we find from the evidence that young people at 15 who can't name a job that they expect to have as an adult do worse later on. And we don't expect them to name it, make a final decision at 15, but that's an indicator that they're actually thinking about their potential futures. And that's what we want them to be doing. We want them to be curious, we want them to be exploring, we want them to be asking questions. One of our indicators is, have you had a career conversation? Have you spoken to somebody about a job you're interested in the future? And when we think about kind of the thinking which needs to go into it, well, we kind of know that the ideas that young people have about their futures are heavily influenced by constructions of gender, constructions of social class, by ethnicity, migrant status, by rurality, all these social factors play a big part. And there are assumptions that young people have, there are expectations, sometimes they're unspoken. And the process of career exploration takes time. You can need to, have an idea, check it out, ideally see for yourself, speak to somebody who works in that profession, see a workplace in that profession, work out whether it really is right for you. Not so you don't just go with your first or second idea. This is an active process, and you need to be doing it at a young enough age so you can make a good investment in your education as you're going through. So we suggest that education systems should begin with familiarizing young people about the world of work and the relationship between some subjects and occupations, maybe challenging some of those unspoken expectations about what's right or thinkable for a boy or a girl to do, from primary school, from elementary school, from a young age. And then through lower secondary, there should be a really important process of exploration, backed up by first-hand experiences of workplaces and interactions with people in work. And that's because, in many countries, not all countries, the majority of young people stay on to upper secondary education. And at that point, at 15, 16 or older, they're specializing what they're doing. They are deciding whether they're going to get specialist training, might be a vocational program. They're deciding on a narrower set of subjects which might facilitate progression further. And if we just give it to them, a few months before they make those choices, we're not doing them a good service. We really need to embed this, and so it makes it part of the culture. So make it so it's often and it's frequent and it's integrated into learning from a young age.
Wonderful. So to summarize your insights, ideally the age of 15 is when career readiness should start. And I would recommend those countries, the emerging countries that don't have infrastructures available yet or expertise, at least start with a day, start with a baby step, at least starts this conversation of having a what is career readiness. You can take insights from the OECD website. Anthony, you are a
Well,
passionate
just to clarify that
advocate.
on, sorry, just clarify that Reza. I mean, I would say that they should be starting well before 15. We kind of know that what they do at 15, can be relied upon, but ideally they should be starting before.
Okay, so the earlier the better. So no specific age per se, but the earlier the better. Dr. Mann is known globally as a passionate advocate for careers and guidance. And this is a special month that people are listening to you, and they will like to draw upon your wisdom. How can the career sector professionals collectively advocate with multi-stakeholders? So number one, who are our stakeholders, and how do we advocate collectively?
Okay. Well, I mean, so Global Career Month is it's the first time it's ever happened. It is a collaboration of all these international organizations. Each of us who works in the international organization works with countries, and we work with data, and we work with research evidence. And that shows us that guidance is increasingly important, but it's an underappreciated resource in many countries. I mean, you're absolutely right in focusing on the stakeholders and who those stakeholders should be. Sometimes, there are tensions because education departments are perhaps less interested in career guidance, because the kind of the real benefits of them is enjoyed by people once they're in the labour market. And ministries of employment or skills don't always have access to schools. So there are, this whole range of governmental players who have an interest here in focus of employment, of skills, of labour. Equalities is very important, as well as education. And one of the things which we found in the work that we did is that employers have an absolutely essential role to play in the provision of good guidance. So I talked about 11 predictors or 11 indicators. Now, 4 of those relate to the way the young people think about their potential futures. 7 of them relate to activities or experiences which they can do while they're in school. And of those, 6 require or are significantly enhanced by the involvement of employers. And so the economic community really needs to be engaged. And they shouldn't just be the wealthiest, biggest private companies. It should be a real reflection of the economic community. And good systems will make it really easy for the economic community to engage with the educational community on the terms that schools need to be in charge, but make it really easy for that to happen. And that's something which gives young people authentic, reliable insights into the world of work. They can gain lots of new and useful information and experiences, which are much, much more difficult to get to that level of quality from outside of school, from within school. So there are many stakeholders are involved. There are many stakeholders who work with youth. Parents are incredibly important, but we need to see this as as a village coming together of benefit to everybody. Young people benefit because they get better employment outcomes. Employers benefit because they find the young people with the interest and the skills which they want and need. And so there's a lot in it for them. Schools benefit because there's a growing literature which shows that young people become more motivated in school once they can see a better relationship between what they're doing in the classroom and who they might become themselves later on. And parents benefit because we all want the best for our children, don't we?
Wonderful. I like the focus that you started off with employers, the private sector, and the public sector. You talked about youth and you talked about parents. I think this is a much more focused strategy when we come to advocacy. And I'm confident that the people that are listening to you will actually strategize accordingly. The UN, as you know, has various international days that they celebrate throughout the year. As a careers community, there's a working group that is currently in place that is advocating towards a UN Careers and Livelihood Day. Your thoughts for a UN Careers and Livelihood Day?
Well, I think that's exactly what we should be seeing. I mean, it speaks to the global assessment of the importance of the issue, and having a day in and of itself, will have some limited impacts perhaps. But what it does do is it kind of shows governments, it shows the education community, it shows the economic community that this is something which is really valued. And it's an opportunity to shine a light on the best possible research, to share practice, to encourage schools to do something they wouldn't do before. As part of Global Careers Month, we're encouraging ourselves at OECD for schools who don't have a tradition of this, thinking about putting on a simple careers carousel, inviting maybe 5 to 10 people from work, employers to come into the school to talk to, kind of rotate round tables, talking to young people about what they do. It's a very effective way of giving young people the opportunity to hear firsthand from people in work about a wide range of occupations, maybe ask some questions, broaden their aspirations, inform them, allow them to make better decisions about, deeper exploration, which they might do at a later age. And this is what we do when we want this to be special, to do something different. And we would hope that this does become a UN day. We would support it. It's career guidance is an area of work whose time has come. It is really important to making this the world work socially and economically more effectively, efficiently, and equitably than we can do without it.
I like this perspective of that invite 3 to 4 employers to the respective schools and colleges, and that will create more awareness. I would like to give an example of South Africa, where there's a career dress up day in which different students are dressed up in different professions. That's a great advocacy movement. It starts very early, so it's a very nice activity at starting very early and more engaging with the students. I think someone dressed up as a doctor, as an engineer, as an educator, as an astronaut. So it's something very inspiring. I understand that the OECD developed an amazing resource investing in career guidance. Can you share your thoughts on what was the thinking behind this document and where can people actually download this document?
So Investing in Career Guidance was a publication which we at the OECD, alongside the other international organizations, UNESCO, the ILO, the World Bank, and so on, who are part of this working group, we kind of pulled together because we felt that, we all worked separately, but we all felt that we're being exposed to the same arguments. And it was an argument for investing in career guidance as countries come out of the pandemic. And we're just looking over our shoulder now, and the pandemic's still very real in many countries, and its impact on the labour market is very meaningful. But in that document, what we tried to do is to kind of summarise what really is the case for career guidance in 2021, 2022, and give some pointers towards what's most effective within that. So, for example, we do argue there very strongly that effective career guidance is enriched by involvement of employers. And we give examples of practice, and it's relevant not just for young people; it's also relevant to adults. And people can find it. It's available on I think probably all the websites of the collaborating organisation. on our website. You can find it on the career readiness pages. The publication is Investing in Career Guidance, and maybe you might be able to put a link in the notes to this video.
Thank you for sharing that. Our main national media in different countries, they often play a very they are a super spreader in terms of mentioning our message in a much more articulate manner. So how can the career sector engage with the media in collective advocacy for the global careers month?
Well, the media is important, and it is important that the media, kind of really understands the importance of what we're talking about. It does tend to be that the media is most interested in statistics and stories, and we'll all be aware of stories where kind of young people have had access to perhaps great guidance, great counselling. They had access to a great opportunity, which is really transformative. And that might be something which as young adults they can reflect upon, or also as younger adults reflect on the absence of it. How difficult it was going through education to make those good decisions which are right for them, as they went through these years of education. So the stories are important, which young people, young adults have to say, but also the statistics, and it is difficult sometimes to gather data. But one thing we can do is we can survey young adults about their experiences, about whether they feel that their schools prepared them well for work, and then if they did, what were the things which they had when they were in school. And the fact that this is a kind of global initiative, and it's backed, it's very rare for these for us in the World Bank and the European Commission and the International Labour Organization all to collaborate. We don't do it very often. So you can. I think the media can have some confidence that this is something which a lot of people all around the world are saying deserves to be treated with greater seriousness in most countries, probably much all countries. I think if we look at the big trends, whatever countries were doing sort of 10 to 20 years ago, they should be doing more over the next 10 to 20 years. That's the bottom line.
Wonderful. Can you share what's happening at the OECD? What are the new initiatives that the OECD is involved in? How can people contribute and get involved?
Well, at the moment, we're building on this work which you did with the longitudinal data. So lots of as well as we have big working papers with all the details, all the statistical analysis about the longitudinal data which is available. But on top of that, we have a whole series of short papers looking at some of the implications of that for practice. We're very focused on effective practice and what the data can tell us about more effective practice. So, for example, we've reviewed our data and the academic literature around something as simple as career conversations. How to manage, engineer career conversations so the greatest benefit to young people, how to engage employers in the work of career guidance. And so we're building upon this, and we're going to carry on doing a series of short studies about particular aspects of more effective guidance. And this is just where we have the data. There's lots more data we want. We don't have it, but or what we do have. So this month we're publishing a paper on job shadowing. It's an initiative which we think is underutilized within schools. Opportunity to go for maybe a day or an afternoon to observe somebody in work at their workplace, ask them questions, check whether something really is for you or not. It's a great initiative, and so next week, 17th, we'll be publishing that. Have a webinar to go alongside it. But the two big things we're working on in terms of further research is one is how can career guidance best respond to the inequalities which we see within society, and they cut across a whole range of different aspects of young people. And these are meaningful in terms of how well young people can expect to progress, or additional barriers where they might face as they go into the labour market. So looking at inequalities, and we're also looking at how career guidance can enable progression towards green jobs. That's quite tricky in some ways at the moment, but there's a lot of initiatives going on around the world. It's Green Careers Week, for example, as I'm in the UK this week, and I see that as an initiative which is taking off around the world. And we're very interested in digital technologies, actually where you're starting from Raza. Digital technologies in the pandemic, we saw a great explosion in the use of digital technologies within guidance, and we see digital technologies being developed within schools. I hear some schools saying, "Well, our 16-year-olds designed, our website and this little tool we use to, kind of the biggest organizations in the world, biggest companies in the world." Lots happening, being developed in isolation, but very little's been evaluated. And we kind of feel that the future is blended. There is the whole question about access, but also there's something very important about first-hand interactions. When people sit down and speak to each other, and they can look somebody in the eye, and you have the experience of going to a workplace and smelling it and hearing it and understanding what the culture is, which is much more difficult to pick up online. But what we're developing is an observatory on the use of digital technologies in career guidance for youth. And that's something which we plan to launch next year. We're in the process at the moment of gathering case studies, to help show people how different people around the world are making use of digital technologies. They could be by developers or by users. It could be from the most simple things to, the use of, which is, how we use video, how we get responses from students for the things which they're involved in, all the way through to virtual reality and artificial intelligence, which is now being used. And a key question which we always ask is, how does this tool make career guidance more effective, more efficient, and/or more equitable, for the student? What's the added value? And that's something which we're very interested in at the moment. If people want to follow us, well, we put all our information up on our website, but also I'm on Twitter as Mann OECD, and I sort of publicize things there. And people can contact us, and maybe we could put this in the notes, but there's a career-readiness at oecd.org, and that's a general email address where people can connect with us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your generous sharing of so many nuggets of learning. I think one of the things that was very apparent was digital technologies. So I will highly urge and recommend people all over the world to come up with their innovation hats and come up with something very digital, and that is definitely being preferred at the OECD. And coming towards the conclusion of this very insightful and inspiring interview, what is your message for the Global Careers Month and the career sector in general?
Well, I think my message is that what people who work in the career guidance sector in this world, what they're doing is hugely important. It's hugely important, more than ever. It's something to be very proud of. It's something which is a really vital part of the development of young people. And we kind of know the challenges are greater, but we also know that what development has to offer, career development has to offer, when it's once delivered effectively, it really does make a difference. Can really be relied upon to make a difference to young people. And so I see Global Careers Month as raising awareness of the problem, which is that not enough young people or adults get access to the guidance which they need, but also a celebration of the solutions and a celebration of the community. And I think it's a moment for people who work in this sector to take a moment to be proud of what they do and proud of the work which they can plan to make it even better for everybody involved.
Wonderful. This is definitely a celebration month. And thank you so much for your very authentic and very valuable wisdom. And I am confident that the people that are listening to you all over the world will actually benefit a lot, and they will actually be super spreaders of this knowledge in their respective regions and their countries. Thank you so much for your time. Have a pleasant afternoon.
Well, thank you, Raza. Thank you very much.